My name is Kamal Saleem. I was born in Lebanon into a devout Sunni Muslim family. My earliest memories are of my mother cradling me, whispering prayers over me. She prayed that I would become a great warrior for Allah, a defender of the faith. In my culture and my family, the highest honor was to fight and die for Islam. By the time I was 4 years old, I was being taught to hate Jews and Christians. They were the enemies of Allah, and I was told it was my duty to oppose them. At 7 years old, I was recruited by a radical Islamist organization. While other children were learning to play soccer or ride bicycles, I was learning to use weapons, build bombs, and carry out covert missions. I became a child soldier, trained to serve the cause of jihad. By the time I was a teenager, I was actively involved in operations throughout the Middle East, spreading terror to those who opposed our beliefs. As I grew older, my mission expanded. I was sent to Europe and eventually to the United States with a specific purpose: to infiltrate Western society, spread Islam, and weaken its foundations. We had a strategy: influence the education system, exploit political freedoms, and even target religious institutions. The goal was to create a pathway for Islamic dominance. When I arrived in the United States, I took on jobs and built relationships, all the while presenting myself as an assimilated immigrant. But it was all part of a facade. My heart was still consumed with the mission I had been trained for since childhood: to advance Islam by any means necessary. One day, my life took a dramatic and unexpected turn. I was driving on a highway when my car spun out of control. The crash was devastating, leaving me severely injured and helpless. In that moment, all my training, my strength, and my mission meant nothing. I was broken, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. To my surprise, a Christian family came to my aid. They didn't know who I was or what I stood for, but they took me in and cared for me as if I were one of their own. They fed me, clothed me, and nursed me back to health. I was stunned. In my world, love was always conditional, based on obedience and merit. But their love was different, unconditional, selfless, and genuine. As I lay in their home recovering, I began to wrestle with deep questions. Where was Allah in my moment of need? Why had He allowed me to be broken like this? I prayed fervently to Allah, crying out for help, but the silence was deafening. It felt as though the God I had served all my life had abandoned me. In my desperation, I prayed a different prayer. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you are real, reveal yourself to me. I didn't know what I was asking, but I was desperate for an answer. Then, something incredible happened. Jesus appeared to me in a vision. He stood before me, radiant and full of love. I can never forget His words. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. His presence was overwhelming, yet peaceful. It was as if He could see into my very soul, into all the pain, confusion, and brokenness I carried. In that moment, everything I had been taught about Jesus was turned upside down. I had always believed He was just a prophet, a man like any other. But here He was, declaring Himself to be the Son of God, the Savior of the world. I couldn't deny the power of His presence. I knew in my heart that what I was experiencing was real. After that vision, I couldn't go back to the life I had known. I began to read the Bible, starting with the Gospels. As I read about Jesus, His teachings, His miracles, and His sacrifice on the cross, my heart was overwhelmed. For the first time, I understood grace. I saw the love of a God who didn't demand performance but offered forgiveness freely. The love I had witnessed in that Christian family now made sense. It wasn't just human kindness. It was the love of Christ working through them. I realized that Jesus had used them to show me what His love looked like in action. Eventually, I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. I gave Him everything: my past, my pain, my pride, and accepted him as my Lord and Savior. In that moment, I felt a peace I had never known. I was no longer bound by hatred and fear. I was free. Today, my mission is no longer one of destruction, but of reconciliation. I travel the world sharing my testimony, telling people about the love and grace of Jesus Christ. I also warn others about the dangers of radical Islam, not out of hatred, but out of a desire to see people set free from the bondage I once lived in. God has given me a new purpose: to build bridges, to speak truth, and to share the hope I have found in Jesus. My story is not just about a dramatic conversion. It's about the power of God's love to transform even the hardest of hearts. If He can change someone like me, He can change anyone.